All right. Let's see. Screen up, camera up, everything up. All right. Then I will assume that's the case. All right, then let's get started out with this next session. So we've had a few sessions already regarding, well, everything about SCOM, obviously, but also we've had a session by the product team about SCOM MI, why they are doing it, what the vision is. Next in the keynote, I also talked about SCOM MI and looking towards the future. But let's first have a look at what the current architecture is, what the setup requirements are, the prerequisites, and how that ties together. So let's go with that story first. Um, Again, I am Bob Cornelissen, or sometimes referred to as SCOM Bob, which kind of tells you what I do a lot of the time. I'm the CTO of Topcore and 11 times Microsoft MVP, and waiting to hear if I get renewed in a few months' time. All right, so let's go with the agenda. Right. So we will start talking about the why of SCOM MI. Then we are quickly diving into the architecture and building blocks. So the building blocks are the things that we need in the cloud, on-prem. What do we need as prerequisites? And how do we get it then installed? Um, Next, I will show you a little bit about the look and feel and the next steps. And we will discuss a little bit about the costs, which is, as far as we know, for now. Obviously, there's no conclusive thing there, and we will talk a little bit about the future, the immediate future there. So let's see what we can do. Right. So, what is the challenge with the on-prem SCOM world? Let's say, what are some of the challenges? Which might not be bad. It might just be a challenge and accepted as the way it is, right? So first of all, it lives in your data center, so there will be capital expenses and operational expenses. The costs coming with that. So you have to run it in your data center. You might have to have VMware or Hyper-V hosts where to run it on as VMs, and you need to have cooling for those, power, etc., etc. So there's a little bit more than just having a machine running SCOM, right? It's sitting in your data center. You might be looking towards moving some of it off. So that's one of the things. SCOM has always had a large footprint: CPU, memory, disk. So this is one of the classic challenges of SCOM. It has a lot of advantages and flexibility as a tool, as I hope you all know, and otherwise come and visit my trainings. But that comes at a cost, right? And these are some of the costs. Next, of course, SCOM needs maintenance. So you need to update your Windows monthly, SQL every 3 or 6 months, SCOM every 6 months. And you need the knowledge to set up the backend, for the design, the installation, configuration. Let's be honest, that's what, for example, a company like mine as a consultant is living off of, because yeah, there is some complexity in a huge tool like this, right? So some of these are challenges. So why SCOM in the cloud? These are slides from Microsoft, borrowed from them, and they know I borrowed them. Don't worry. Infrastructure management is hard, resource intensive, right? So that is one of the things. Challenging to migrate existing management packs based on SCOM towards Azure Monitor. I've talked about it in the keynote. It's not easy to just say, let's just export it and throw it into Azure Monitor, all of these management packs, and now it's exactly the same thing. It doesn't work that way. So we need to have a way to get everything which is in the management packs, which is our monitoring knowledge, our tools knowledge, our application knowledge in there, and be able to still use it. And as also discussed earlier, the fragmented experience. So if you are monitoring on-prem or cloud, or what if you lift and shift an on-prem machine into the cloud, then it's still a full VM, but it's also monitored by Azure Monitor. Difficult. So we have now Azure Monitor SCOM Managed Instance. So Azure Monitor SCOM Managed Instance, or SCOM MI, is basically a new capability of Azure Monitor. So it gives some additional capabilities. So it's cloud-based, full feature parity. So that basically means the management packs, let's be honest. And it is running as a service. So as a service means that you do not need to update your Windows operating system underneath it, right? And the SQL underneath it, because we are going to use a SQL managed instance as well. So those kind of things are important. It's taken care of. And of course, this is one of the things that is needed to make it easier to migrate, is a seamless migration experience. Now, you've just seen Harold from Select. They're already displaying a migration wizard, which includes also SCOM MI. So it kind of helps you move management packs across and some of the other settings. But management packs have always been difficult to move across in a migration, right? So that is what the Select tools can do. So, advantages of SCOM Managed Instance. Let's start with this one. It's setup and management on Azure. So it's still the Azure portal. You go in there and you can set up the SCOM MI from there and manage it. Zero database maintenance. Basically, you are using SQL managed instance. So it's still going to be a machine sitting behind it. So it's not just that you order one database. It's still an instance, but it is managed. So you can size it, scale it. They take care that it's online and everything. So no difficult SQL stuff to do. Immediate and easy scaling. Well, the immediate part is obviously we are talking that you want an extra management server added. It'll deploy a machine for you, install SCOM on it, and add it to the skill set. So it'll take a few minutes, obviously, but it's what we call immediate. So, and it's very easy to do. Quick and easy patching. Well, update rollups always took time. Every time we were looking at an update rollup every 6 months, and then it took a lot of time to patch, especially also the backend, right? So in this case, you will get a button and it will tell you, hey, there's an update available. Do you want to deploy it on the backend systems? So on the management servers, basically, right? Using existing management packs to monitor workloads. You've already invested in management packs if you're using SCOM. So you have your monitoring packs, maybe also third-party monitoring packs. You have your overrides and custom management packs that you built. You can use this. You can still connect using the regular SCOM console, right? So if you have your SCOM 2022 console, just point it that way, and it should work. And you can do your reporting stuff in Power BI, for example, or Squared Up, or something else. I will talk about the reporting part in a minute. So, what is different or what is the same? Well, let's first check out what is different. And I'm looking at just main things, right? So what is different? First of all, your SQL backend is no longer a full SQL server or a cluster or whatever. It's a SQL managed instance, which is a Azure-based, a cloud-based offering. It's available for everybody. You can, order it, get it installed, do some settings, and you have it. The management servers are no longer living on-prem. They are living also in the cloud in a skill set with a load balancer in front of it. And we have no more SSRS reporting. That is because it doesn't fit well with SQL MI, to be honest. It would be a separate VM. It is possible for now to get it working if you hack it a little bit, and I've tried and it worked, but it's not where we want to go. Where we want to go is other ways of getting this data in, and we've heard a lot of requests to use some stuff like Power BI. So that is now the chance to use that to move forward into this monitoring story. So what is the same? Well, SCOM agents are still SCOM agents. So that remains the same. We have gateways to enable, the monitoring scenarios as we sometimes have. But also we will see use of gateways, for example, to monitor our Linux and network, stuff like that, so that you don't need to go across a line with perhaps some latency and then monitor something on-prem. So you would use a gateway for that. We have the management packs. They're all the same. Harold showed you also. I think the guys from NICE will also show you. Stuff is still working. You can use the SCOM console. And if you have other UIs, for example, squared up dashboarding is working again with this. So that is the same. Right, so moving forward, what do we need? Right, so first of all, we need to have a connectivity between on-prem data center and Azure. I will show you this in another graphic in a minute. So we first need to make sure that we have connectivity because we are adding SCOM to the domain. That is the short version of it. So we need to have some kind of a VPN or express route. Next, we need some on-prem prerequisites in the domain part of this. We have some Azure prerequisites. And well, you've already heard me say SQL MI, so that's one of them. I will show you the rest as well. Then we can install the actual SCOM MI because we have our prerequisites set. And then we can do the important things again, which is connecting up the agents and getting all of the management pack stuff to work, which is what has been also spoken about in the previous session by Harold. Right, so what does it look like? So let me show you a simple sketch, I hope. We have here two sides of the story. So on the left-hand side is the on-prem part, and on the right-hand side is the cloud part, as shown with that little cloud at the top. Right, so the first thing you need is you need to have a connectivity. So in my case, I was using a VPN, using a V1, etc., everything that is behind that to get that connection to work. With a firewall, obviously, to make sure that the traffic can move in between and that it's allowed. And we have two subnets. On-premise 10.254. On cloud is 10.250. And we just define that traffic can flow between them. Next, we created in the cloud a VNet because we need to have a VNet in order to put some subnets in. Right, so we have that VNet here. It's a /24. And next we cut that up into subnets. So we create several /27 subnets, which are smaller ones, right? So we have one here at the bottom where SQL MI is going to live in. SQL MI needs a separate subnet. It prefers actually a separate subnet because it's going to create IP addresses for you for the the clustering parts and everything. So it wants to sit there and have enough space. Next, you create another subnet, which is this one here, where the SCOM MI will live, which is the load balancer and your management servers, however many there will be. Well, /27 allows for plenty of them. So I don't think we are quickly going to see ones which are going over, how much is this address space, 32? So something like that. So that is our networking infrastructure and the prerequisite on that side. So let's now move towards the left-hand side of the story. So on the left-hand side of the story, we are talking about the on-prem Active Directory domain. So we have an existing Active Directory domain. What do we need? We need to create, first of all, a user account in order to create objects in the Active Directory domain. For example, we are going to deploy a new management server. We want to have an account which allows that management server to be added to the domain and to be added to a group, which is number 2 in that list over there on the left. So we need to have a group where our SCOM servers are going to live. That user account is then able to not only add our SCOM managed instance management servers to the domain, but also add them to the group. What is this group used for? It is used for access to the group managed service account for SCOM. So there will be one group managed service account for SCOM usage, and the SCOM management servers will only use that account for, well, most of the things that it needs a service account for. So we do not need all those 4 separate accounts anymore. Right, so that is the on-prem part, plus there will be a DNS entry in that domain. So it will be something like SCOM MI or whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter, your domain, whatever. And you will point it towards an IP address which is living in the cloud over there in that subnet where you are going to deploy SCOM MI. As long as it's not .100, I think is what Christian from NICE found out, then you will be fine at the end. So I created the .29 in this subnet and said, this is my SCOMMI.domain.local. Go ahead. So that's the on-prem stuff. Next, we move towards the cloudy stuff. So what do we need in the cloud? We need to have a managed identity. Now, a managed identity is, I kind of translate it like a service account would be, right? So we need something in order to authenticate against SQL MI. So we are going to, the next button, actually, let's click it, is the SQL MI. So you are deploying SQL MI in that subnet there at the bottom. It will deploy. It will take about 6 hours after you finish running through the wizard, and then it will take 6 hours to deploy, and you will have a SCOM MI. And obviously, you need to have some kind of an access to it outside of a user account. So you will have a kind of an admin account, but SCOM doesn't use that account. It uses the managed identity. So we are using the managed identity to go from the SCOM servers into the SQL MI, which is where we store our data. What else do we need? At the top over there, the NAT gateway with a public IP. This is so we can enable our SCOM management servers to access the cloud, for example, for downloading management packs, just to name an example. So it doesn't need it for the agents. The agents go over that middle connectivity over the VPN. So they don't care about that, but for this it is needed. All right, what is next? We also need to have a key vault because we need to store our username and password of that account over there. So the user account on-prem. We need to store it somewhere. What is the cloudy way to store data like that, username and password, put it in a key vault, and make sure that our SCOM servers can access that key vault. That's basically all that is needed. All right, so once we have all of that, now we can use the SCOM MI installation wizard. So it's a wizard that has a few screens you need to fill out. For example, that load balancer address, the account, the key vault, managed identity, where's my SQL MI sitting? So it needs to have all of that information, and then you can install that SCOM MI. So the wizard will install for you a virtual machine scale set with one management server in it, which you can later then, scale out to more, but it will start with one. And it will put a load balancer in front of it. So that load balancer will get that IP address that you already assigned before. You with your consoles and your agents are talking to the load balancer, and the load balancer will figure it out towards the backend SCOM MI management servers. Right, so that's basically you ready and installed the SCOM MI. The only thing to do, obviously, is next connect up, which is what we are talking about in the next screens. All right, so what is next? The look, right? So the look and feel of this thing, we can actually check how much time we have left at the end. I can just show you this live as well. But this is just simply what it looks like. At the top, you can type into your portal SCOM managed instance, and you get to a screen like this. It will show you the one option for the prerequisites. So you will find some scripts to check if you have actually gotten all of the prerequisites right. It will do some checks and it will show you what you need. The middle one is create a new instance, which will lead you to that wizard. And the one on the right is basically go to your instances. You can get a list, and well, in this case, I selected this SCOM MI 05. This is my instance. In the middle of the screen, you will see, where's my mouse? So the resource group where it is in, the location, West Europe, because I'm on the Europe side. Some other stuff. So my domain name, which is still the old domain name, and the IP address for the domain controller. And at the bottom, you can see my group managed service account details, my load balancer details, the name and IP address I'm using, the databases, and the managed identity is sitting right over here. And on the left-hand side, you can see some stuff like the SCOM MI infrastructure, where you can actually go towards the management server itself, or management servers themselves. Yeah, and the rest we will talk about in the next screen. So, what is next? Visuals, right? You need to be able to see what the heck it is doing. So, we have here the option inside of that same screen, connect with. If you click it, then you get two options there, the web console and the ops console, which is, again, the same for, as you know, from your SCOM CD, your installation CD. Basically, what it gives you is a download link. It will download to your on-prem machine somewhere, right? So it can actually be a server or a tooling host, or maybe your desktop, doesn't matter. You install SCOM from there. You do not get the option to install a management server anymore, but you do get the option for the console or the web console, right? If you want to install a web console, make sure that you have your IIS prerequisites and everything done, and then you can install a web console. Or, of course, you could use the squared up dashboard and then point it towards your load balancer IP address again. That's basically it for the consoles. Again, also the SCOM console, the first thing, if it opens, it will ask you which server do you want me to connect to. You fill in that load balancer IP of name, and it will connect up. It will figure it out for you. Next option, since there's no more reporting available in the SCOM console, as you will see, you know, that reporting, the green reporting button is gone. You now have Power BI options. So again, this one has you can click it and it will show you the prerequisites, what you need, install and configure in the Power BI stuff, the dashboards, basically the workspace, and then you can go view it. So it will show you what it looks like. So there are a number of dashboards in there, not many. There will be more later as development goes on. Or there will be an alternative, who knows? What's next? The agents, right? So when talking about agents, first of all, we need to talk about scaling, right? So we need to know how many agents are there. So the simplest way, you can see there the screenshot where it says configuration, scaling, and patching. So the scaling part, if you click it, it will ask you how many agents do you have. If you fill out anything over 1,000, then it will create a second management server. If you fill in anything over 2,000, it will create a second and a third management server, and so on. So wait for it to deploy, and you will have X number of management servers, and then you can start connecting your agents on in whatever way you want to. It's just another management server name to connect to. For patching, basically it's the same story. You click on patching, it will show you if there is an update available. So it doesn't do it in secret in the background when, you know, at some time of day when it doesn't suit you. It will show you, hey, there is an update available. do you want me to deploy it on these management servers, yes or no? And if you say, okay, deploy, then it will go over the management servers and do its job. And it doesn't take that long. So that's the advantage we talked about earlier. All right, so you can connect up gateways. If you need gateways or for whatever reason, you can now start to connect those up. And then, of course, your agents with or without the gateways. Right, so you can just connect them up to that load balancer address again. So we now have scaling, we have visuals, we have agents. So next, of course, will be our favorite topic, which are the management packs, right? So basically, it's load management packs. Windows, IIS, Active Directory, SQL, whatever you need. You can tune and override them. That's the whole process which you have to go through anyway every time, right? Of course, there will be an alternative. And then you load more packs, tune them again, maybe then create custom packs as you need to, depends on how new you are to SCOM. Of course, you can also use other tools which are meant to work with a lot of management packs and migrate them, for example, between a test environment and a production environment, but also between an old SCOM environment and a newer SCOM environment, or between a SCOM on-prem environment and SCOM MI, such as select MP Studio, and you have that migration wizard. So basically, you can say, I have a repository of management packs here, and I want to deploy it from test to production, or from test to SCOM MI. Doesn't matter. You have already everything ready, and it will just deploy it to wherever you want it to. So basically, infrastructure, you have your agents, you have a way to visualize it, and you have to work with the management packs, which is usually the most work anyway. So it all depends on where you are coming from before. All right, so the next question we get asked a lot is, of course, licensing. What about licensing? How much does it cost? Well, again, I do not work for Microsoft, so I will just go ahead and say it. I've never seen anybody understand Microsoft licensing. That's one. And the second one is the costs of running something in Azure. So now you are in good hands because this is both. So first of all, you've seen the prerequisites, right? So the prerequisites list, first of all, networking. So here it says depends. So how much does networking cost? Well, it depends. Are we talking about the VPN? Are we talking about the Connect? Keep in mind, obviously, that SCOM is likely not going to be the very, very, very first tool which requires that network connection towards the cloud, in your case. So you likely are already connected to the cloud through some kind of a VPN solution. If that is the case, then, well, you cannot add it to the SCOM costs. Right, so it might be just the ingress of data. So how many gigabytes of data are you pushing into the cloud from through that tunnel? That's the only thing. So it all depends. In my case, if I set up a demo, yeah, it belongs to my SCOM MI. Next is SQL MI. How much does SQL MI cost? It depends. I know you're going to hate me for this, but to put the word depends on here, but it depends on the size. So it is suggested that you start with the setting, which is the 8 CPU with some RAM, etc., option. That is one of the default ones, actually, if you install SQL MI with the next option. Next, you can look at sizing it, right? So you can size it down, which is what I did for my demo, right? So I go then for the 4 CPUs and with less memory, etc. option. That's all fine and well for a demo, but obviously in production, you might at some point go, hey, I actually need to go one up. So then again, it depends on the size. There's actually another thing, but that's coming in another bullet. Right, so next, we have SCOM MI. We know SCOM MI itself is a load balancer, which is one cost, and a virtual machine scale set with VMs in it. So how many VMs do you have and how big are they? By default, they get installed as a DS3 V2. That's the default setting. You get also if there are more deployed. If you need more than 1,000 agents, for example, you get DS3 V2s. Okay, so now I'm running a demo. Can I go smaller? Yes, I can go to a DS2 V2, for example, and I will spend less money on it. But again, in production, you don't go down that much, right? Then it just doesn't perform anymore. Right, what else do we need? Well, we don't know what's going to happen at GA or after GA, right? So if you release a new product or what it feels like a new product, then legal, marketing, whatever needs to think about the licensing structure. How are we going to do that? I don't know, but currently we have obviously a SCOM agent. So a SCOM agent needs to connect. So we have our system center license, and that licenses the SCOM agents, right? So it doesn't matter where it's connecting to which SCOM it's connecting, if it's 16, 19, 22, or MI at this moment. Next is depends, again, on Azure Hybrid Benefits. So if you have Azure Hybrid Benefits, you can apply that to SQL and Windows. So SQL applies to the SQL MI, but also there's a Windows factor behind it. And the SCOM MI VMs are, well, first of all, Windows machines. So again, if you have that Azure Hybrid Benefit, it will slash the SQL and Windows costs behind it. So it can go either way. Right, so next is this question, which we get asked a lot. Do monitoring packs still work? Yes. And we've seen and tried some examples. NICE has done a number of NICE sessions about that as well, showing that their management packs are fully working. And I think we can expect most of the management packs to just simply work. Unless there's some crazy dependency there. All right, you still have access to the management servers. Currently, it's not containerized or anything. So basically, you can go to the virtual machine scale set and just connect directly to that machine, log into it, and you have a management server and you can mess with it. So you can do all kinds of things with it, but just be careful. Because if you deploy a new one, then it will not have the same settings anymore. It will have the default settings as deployed by Microsoft. Since it's a managed instance, try to not mess with the boxes too much. And we will expect some more gateway stuff later, because sometimes you use management servers to, for example, monitor Linux and network, which is usually in the same network as where that management server is. Well, now you've moved the management server to a remote network, so that connection will be will have some latency, obviously. So you will have to use a gateway closer towards your on-prem resources if you are using network or Linux monitoring. So we will see a little bit more of that potentially. Future, right? So currently we are in public preview with SCOM MI. In West Europe and West US regions, obviously they will, it will become available at GA in more and more places, but this is where they are currently at. So just pick one of these for your testing and proof of concepts. The GA date is unknown. Yeah, Ankur didn't want to be pinned down. Just kidding, Ankur. So no GA known. We are hoping end of the year, the second half of the year, right? So changes to visual display of data. We've talked about this in the keynote, right? 2 hours ago. What was it? Yes, we are looking towards observability, obviously. So getting the data connected up later on, getting them into log analytics, make the connection in order to be able to analyze and do more things there. more integration with Azure Monitor and Azure Portal. So it will be possible to do more and more things through the Azure Portal without you having to log into the SCOM console for the administrative things. How fast will this go? We don't yet know. It's all bits and pieces right now, right? But we know we want to access it through that direction. Next, we have, of course, the Azure Monitor. We've already talked about that as well in both previous sessions. That yes, there will be more and more connectivity with Azure Monitor, and in that case, well, this is actually a part of Azure Monitor now, right? So it enables some monitoring scenarios which Azure Monitor does not do, and now it does, because this is now a part of it. But of course, I'm talking about the connectivity with the event hubs, with the alerting parts, with log analytics, in order for us to, for example, do some KQL queries against it. One of the things coming up in a number of months will be the ARM awareness for the Arc connected VMs or Azure VMs. Right? That means that it's easier to connect up with that agent stuff. Other challenges are under investigation. Yes, as always, there are challenges and things that you need to solve for, not just to get things working, but also to enable all of those future opportunities, as I talked about in my keynote as well. And yeah, also, unfortunately, a lot of NDA stuff that I cannot talk about. So, actually, the next slide I talked about with somebody, and they suggested I should just show it on screen as well. It's something that we are offering. We are offering SCOM training, SCOM operator certification, and administrator certification. It used to be that you have to follow the complete training before taking the exam, and then passing it. Obviously, you get the badge. For the first one, we are making it possible to just do the exam, just like a Microsoft exam, for example. If you already know what you need to know, just take the exam. If you pass, you pass, and otherwise we will give you the advice to follow our training. And for the administrator, you will see the same happening. For the specialist trainings, we will keep the training and certification together, multiple topics, and one of them, this is also why I'm showing this here, is the SCOM MI beta training. So we are going to deploy that as well soon. Of course, since it is not GA yet and things will change, obviously our content in the training will change as well accordingly. We will try to keep whatever changes as much as possible in the second part of the training, so you would only need to follow the second part of the training if something major changes. Right, so let's move forward towards the Q&A. Let's see if I see some questions. What if your domain is running on VMs in Azure? Yes. Fine. Then fine, Stoyan. Yeah, then you can just connect to those. You need to have a connectivity with your domain, basically, your Active Directory domain. Sending a text message still an option? Well, I think it is, but you know, it's not going to be a direct attached modem, for example. So you would go towards a script-based notification channel. Now they are working on the notification channels and what is possible and what is not. As you know, there are multiple options there. The direct connected modem will not work, obviously, since you do not get access to the backend. But the rest will be there. No ACS. Interesting. So ACS, I don't think it has been thought about very much at the moment. Obviously, ACS would install on a management server, right? So you would have to have that. I don't think it's possible right now. It might be an option for later, but to be honest, the first thing that I would remove from SCOM and put in the Defender suite with Azure Security Center and Sentinel kind of stuff would be ACS data. So I know that some companies are kind of locked in because of not wanting data to leave their actual data center. But we are talking about SCOM MI, so that ship has kind of sailed already. You are talking with the cloud, and the cloud really, given the size of the amount of data and the going through the data, basically, right? So filtering through it and trying to make sense of it is what Security Center and Sentinel are doing for you. There's no way that ACS and the limited number of reports can do all of that for you. So sorry, no SSRS. Sorry. Yes, that's true. Management packs do have reports inserted in the management packs. So basically, the management server will not try to deploy those reports to a non-existing report server. So it's really sorry about that part. I also feel strongly about reports, to be honest. ACS is free. Yes. That's of course, aside from the massive database that you need and the SQL parts.